Lions say they're sick and tired of hearing it, but hey, you may not know it, so we're going to tell it to you. Detroit 0-20 all-time in Washington. Hey, how are you, folks? Jason Horowitz and NFL.com's Pat Kerwin with you, breaking down 3-1 Detroit, 2-1 Washington. Now, to be fair to the franchise, Detroit did beat the Redskins when they were in Boston, but that doesn't count. That's a long time ago.
That's a real Detroit fan.
That's right. We're going back history to the 30s, but this is something different, Pat. This is the here and now, and that means history for the Lions, scoring 34 points in the fourth quarter against the Bears, the most ever in a fourth quarter. They were able to run the football a little bit. Did they try and do that a little bit this weekend?
They made an attempt to be balanced last week. And here's, I asked Rod Marinelli that question this morning. I said, Rods, what's up with the balance? Your passing attacks, where it's at for you. He goes, we're going to try to do what we think we have to do to win. And there are times we are a no huddle, throw it every down team, and there are times we want to run the ball. Then he quickly announced, you know, we have a 300-pound fullback named Bradley, which tells me they're going to come into this game and try to run the ball too.
Well, let's get into that, though, because that 300-pound fullback may need to help block for John Kitna because he's getting beat up left and right. Is this a game maybe where we see they replaced George Foster last week in the game against the Bears, the left tackle for the Lions. Is this a game where maybe we see some improvement?
Well, Foster will be back on the field. That was the first question I said. Is he benched for good? He said, no, Foster will be back and starting for now, which means one more chance. This is what Rod said to me about the 21 sacks of the two quarterbacks. They are concerned about it. How long can this quarterback stay on the field? They lose Kitna, a lot of things fall apart for them. That's another reason they're trying to run the football. But they're putting it on the O-line, and they're going to modify the pass attack a little bit. More quick stuff, get the ball out of their hand so they don't get beat up.
As for the other side, Jason Campbell's did a good job getting the ball out of his hand as well. But his receivers, they signed Keenan McCardle this week. Santana Moss, he's got the groin injury. He may or may not go. Brandon Lloyd was signed last year. He's the fourth or fifth receiver in Joe Gibbs' doghouse. Is this a game that we see a full dose of Betts and Portis, assuming he plays?
Yeah, I think a couple things I want to address on that point. I think McCardle's here because of the injury to Moss. And now that he wasn't signed for opening day, this is not a guaranteed salary. He could be off the roster 2 or 3 times before the end of the year. But they'll need him right now. But it is a running game. Make no mistake about it. They're going to run the ball. They're probably going to run the ball to the left a lot. And it'll be a mix and maybe a little more Betts than we've seen so far this year because Portis is nursing an injury.
Yeah, Portis is trying to get back. They've had the bye week. We'll see how that works out. All right, let's take a look at the AccuScore prediction. Remember, no human element, so it doesn't take into account the fact that the Lions are 0-20 all-time in Washington. But the AccuScore prediction of the 10,000 tests, 52% of the time, the Redskins still won the game. But basically a toss-up in the score. Take your winner.
Well, I think the computer knew something they didn't tell you. Joe Gibbs is 12-0 against the Detroit Lions.
That is very true.
So we'll just throw that crazy number into the mix, too. I like the Washington Redskins in this game. And I think Detroit will play them very close. Rod said, hey, look, we lost 10 games last year in the last 2 minutes. And this might be the 11th one.
Well, they've gotten better.
They're very good right now.
Definitely a much better football team, but so are the Washington Redskins. Detroit trying to get to 4-1 for the first time since 1991. But that year ended with a loss in the playoffs to the Redskins. The two teams kick it off at 1 p.m. Eastern. And for more on this game or any other, be sure to stay with CBSSports.com and check everything else out all over the CBS Audience Network. For Pat Kerwin, I'm Jason Horowitz. Take care.